All right, well, it is 6 o'clock, and Happy New Year, everyone. We have a good crowd in the room tonight. It's nice to see everyone. We have a couple of awesome guests with us this evening, and we have some great things that we're going to talk about, and we've had several requests that I had received, and I believe Karen had too, that they would like to talk about compassion fatigue because that's seen so much in the animal world, those who take care of animals. So Dr. Kim actually works with Big Cat Rescue staff and volunteers. And so, Kim, I'm going to let you start, if you don't mind, and just tell everyone a little bit about your background and what you do. And then we're going to let Amber talk a little bit about what she does, and then invite people up on the stage to ask questions. So,
okay, sounds good. So I am a clinical psychologist, and I work with a variety of different things, but with regards to Big Cat and Big Cat Rescue, I've been providing, as we noted in the trailer for coming tonight, that staff and the volunteers and anyone that wants to utilize my service in anything from compassion fatigue, burnout, working just, trying to get good self-care, making sure everyone's taking good self-help breaks for themselves, and work on the overall health and wellness of everyone's mental and physical and emotional state while they work in the field. Because people who work with anything to do with animal sanctuaries and working all the time with all the trauma that can be seen, or any kind of rescues that go on, or sometimes there's multiple losses at a time because the cats are aging. So I provide any support that people reach out for, or that I offer out as a group or individual work to help people with that. And pretty much anything that people come with questions about, that they're working on their health-life balance and working at the sanctuary and so on and so forth.
How long have you been associated with Big Cat Rescue and helping the staff and volunteers?
So I've been officially working since March of 2019. I'm in my head thinking 2019, yeah. So right on the same weekend that the pandemic technically hit, that's when I began working. I had come down, and I did actually a workshop for the staff and volunteers that weekend on compassion fatigue and working with grief and loss and so on and so forth. And so in that capacity officially since then.
I know just from what I do, it can be very difficult, especially when there's a loss. And I know 20 and 21 have been difficult years anyway,
yes,
for everyone. And so, you add loss or, anything like that on top of that is just going to compound that issue for everyone. So,
well, so that being said, I can just, so that people that haven't heard me speak before about this, it comes from working with compassion. If you're in the field, which all of you either are or you're following, being in the field with cats and big cats and just working with animals, that people come into the field and you all have a high level of, empathy, compassion, a drive to care for the animals and each other, because there's a really big camaraderie with people who do the work that we all do. And so that we call that compassion satisfaction, that we get an achievement found in caring for the animals. However, because we have repeated exposure to like traumatic events, we see abuse, illness, euthanasia, obviously, loss, it leads to compassion fatigue because we're so empathetic and we're so loving and giving, and we want to help, save the cats and save whatever we're doing for the work for them, that oftentimes it gets into our spaces of our heads. It's different than burnout. Burnout is kind of over time. You just kind of get a long period of accumulated stress, whereas compassion fatigue comes up like as a sort of like a vicarious trauma, sort of outside of all of a sudden it can sneak up on you. You could just be kind of going along in your life, and all of a sudden, something happens, cat passes away, and it could have been that there were 3 or 4 in the year, which like we've had at Big Cat, or, the unique relationship that one keeper might have with a certain cat might be incredibly intense, and something happens, and then that kind of gives the burden on the person that's the caregiver to have to deal with the emotional fallout because something's happened. So I mean, it could be a variety of things in addition to what you were just saying too, Deb, that people have stresses at home, and people have their family lives and all those things, so it can compound all in there. And when you have a lot of empathy and you have a lot of compassion for your work, then if you're not doing good self-care around all the other issues, it's really hard to manage that. So, and to that point, that's where I step in and do a lot of help with the life-work balance between like the sanctuary staff and volunteers and their home life and whatever's going on, so they can do their best work for the cats.
I am a retired nurse and was a nurse practiced for 38 years, but I think you see the same thing in healthcare so many times, because people that tend to work with animals and in healthcare are loving, giving types of people. That's just, you kind of are attracted to that profession.
Yes.
And you see it in that as well. You see compassion fatigue in healthcare as well. And with the pandemic, I know a number of nurses who are either leaving the job because they're just overwhelmed and because of what's going on, or just everything that you see in healthcare just over time just becomes too difficult to continue to deal with. So I can understand, having worked in that field for so long, I can understand it from that field more, just because I did that for so long.
Right. Well, and it's very similar, Deb. It's so similar for everyone listening. If you're working in a medical field, or you're working with anything that you're giving a caregiving aspect to, even if you're caring for your Alzheimer, grandmother or mom or dad or something like that, it's very similar to the fact that when you have when you're basically overusing your compassion and empathy skills, over time, it kind of, unravels and can, and even the most resilient people need to step away or, put their minds in healthy check so that they can not end up doing like what you're just saying, like we're seeing in a lot of, the hospitals, people walking out or not being able to do the work because they're so overwhelmed. It's very similar. So, compassion is compassion, whether it's for a big cat or an elephant or for a person or children or whatever it is, it still comes up with those same feelings, and people often ask me, and this is similar to what you were just saying too, Deb, about like nurses and doctors and things, that, what happens, like what are the symptoms of compassion fatigue? And there's such a long list, but I'll just touch on some of the ones that, so people that are listening, in case you guys want to identify some of these, in case you're worried that you have this, people tend to not talk about the emotion that they have about whatever is going on. Kind of an apathetic, I call it the blahs, kind of blah feeling. The pleasure in things that you usually get pleasure in, even if you're in the caretaking of the animals, kind of feels not quite as satisfying. You might feel a little bit more isolated. Concentration might go down, similar to when people get anxious or depressed. That physical, mental tiredness that comes around. Some clients that I work with at Big Cat have some physical complaints that come up, that they feel, like more achy in joints and feeling, more stressed in the body physically. And some people have, and I've talked about this when I did the compassion fatigue workshop before, is, and you see this in the medical field as well, is that people get into things like soothing behaviors. So maybe you start eating and gaining weight, eating more and gaining weight, or to deal with the stress because you're not talking about it. Sometimes people do compulsive behaviors, maybe drink a little bit more alcohol, or maybe go shopping a little extra, or doing things that are trying to manage, but in fact, it's not really addressing the issue. It's just, sublimating it into something else that's probably either, killing your pocketbook or, doing some kind of damage to your physical body because you're, doing something in excess. So those are the types of symptoms that come out. Sometimes people report anxiety or feeling like they can't understand where it's coming from and why, which is what I was saying at the beginning of the top of the hour, that's a lot of people don't realize that it comes up on you. And then you say, oh, what's going on? Something's wrong. But in fact, that's what it is. So when you go through that checklist or longer checklist of things, then people can say, oh, that's what it is.
I think not sleeping is another one. People will say, oh, I can't sleep anymore. I'm having trouble sleeping. And I think that's another one that sometimes people they don't attribute it to being that, but if you look beyond what you can see, a lot of times I think that it goes into that as well.
Yes, insomnia is actually the number one symptom, and of course I didn't say it, so there we go. Good job. So I'm glad you said it. So yeah, it's like the number one symptom, and people do overlook it because they don't connect it and associate why.
Karen, do you want to talk to Amber just a few minutes and let her tell a little bit about what she does, and then we'll start pulling people up on stage to ask questions?
Of course. Amber is, I'm going to have her, she can open up her mic in a second, tell you all about herself, but just to introduce her, she is the person that I got my ferals from. When we started thinking about this compassion fatigue, which, by the way, I think I have every single symptom. Just letting you know, I might, need you at some point. But all kidding aside, really, I think I have a lot of them. But when we did start talking about the compassion fatigue, the person I thought about the most was Amber. She is an earth angel. She is one of the most amazing people I've ever come across in my years and years of doing this. With rescues and all of that. She's tireless. She will be under a car in the woods. She goes into horrible neighborhoods, rain, sleet, and snow. Every possible situation you can think of, she will save a cat if a cat is in trouble. And I've watched her do TNR over the years. She does fundraising. She's just an amazing human being. I've never seen her stop, not for one day. I watch her Facebook page, and literally, she just keeps going. I don't know when she sleeps or works, because I know she does both, but I just don't know when. And there was only one day when she called me a while ago. I came across someone telling me about a colony in Harrison, New Jersey, which is a horrible section. These cats literally, I don't know, I literally don't sleep at night thinking about the colonies that I've come across, but this is one of them. And she was on her way over there, and she was upset because it just was wearing on her, I think, to do this every single day. So she gets calls, and she goes out there and she does what she has to do. The next day she does it again. So Amber, I'm going to hand it over to you. You can tell a little bit about yourself, and then we'll open it up like she said.
Awesome. Thank you, Karen. Thanks, everybody. So yeah, I'm a small cat rescuer. I have a little bit different of a perspective than most of you, but I've been doing this for upwards of 18, almost 20 years. But in the last 5 years, I've gotten really heavily, maybe 6 years, heavily involved in trap, neuter, return. So I basically decided at some point, I think it was really when I had my first solo foster kitten litter, and 3 of them actually died because they were so sick. After watching that happen, I realized, wow, I'm volunteering for these rescues. I'm putting effort in. I'm giving my time to shelters, but I'm not solving a bigger problem. So that's when I decided to turn my efforts to trap, neuter, return, because I felt like there was this population of cats. There was this population that wasn't counted. They didn't receive help. There was nobody really fighting for them. So for me, that was my turning point, was seeing the suffering and realizing that something had to change. But yeah, compassion fatigue is a real thing. For me, since 2017, I think I've tracked almost 2,200 cats, just under. And I've spayed and neutered close to 3,000. So there's a constant battle, just like with the big cat rescue. There's constantly another person who's doing doing harm or breeding animals or creating the problem that you're trying to fight. So it's an uphill battle. But for me, I think the motivating factor, the one thing that keeps me going is just to think about the cats' lives that I have changed. Karen brought up the situation when I had a personal phone call with her. I was devastated. I was at a breaking point, just like Dr. Kim said. I often go many, many nights without sleep. I foster cats. I have, a lot of things that I'm juggling day to day between work, my personal life, my fosters, and then trapping commitments, transports to vets, medical cases, all of those things, and then trying to find the money to do all of them. So there are points when it just feels like nothing is going to give, and it's a difficult challenge sometimes to find a balance. So, every day I wake up to voicemails, social media messages asking for help. I obviously want to help every time. I don't think that that's a question, but it's definitely important to realize that it's impossible for you to manage all of those things perfectly.
Amber, I was going to say that too. I know with you, and I know with me, there's times when I just don't know if I can keep doing it because of what you see every day. So, and Kim mentioned that too. So I was wondering if Kim could address that too for you, because it wears on you. And I feel that I have to do it. Sometimes I feel as though it's a burden for me. And I was wondering if you feel that way too. If I try to stop, I can't deal with that. I can't deal with the fact that I will ever stop. And in a way, quote unquote, there's a burden there that's been given to me somehow. It's in me. It's in my DNA. It's here to stay. And that's
Karen, I feel the exact same way. And actually, there have been times literally that I've prayed that I wouldn't have the guilt. I think some of the traumas that you see, some of the suffering, the illness, the death, the injury, some of the human sadness that comes along with it, at least from on this level with small cats, the owner surrenders, the negligence, the abandonment, it all definitely takes a toll. But I do feel at times like if I don't do it, who's going to do it? Right. So it's like the same thing that motivates me, that urges me to get involved, and that gives me and gives me energy, can also suck the energy out of me, because it's, I constantly feel that sense of guilt or taxation. Like if I'm not the one to do it, who's going to carry the burden? Absolutely.
Thank you so much. Deb, if you want to go ahead and call on people, however you want to handle it tonight. I know a couple times we just went person to person, but I'll hand it back over to you. Amber's here for anybody, and maybe Kim can help all of us, including Amber. So I'll hand it back over. Thank you. Thank you.
This sounds like a live intervention.
Maybe that's what we all need the first of the year. Okay, so for anybody that's in the room that would like to come up on stage, if you'll just raise your hand, it's the little button there at the bottom. We will pull you up. And for those of you up on the stage, if you will pull your screen down, and that will be the order that we'll go in, pull to refresh there. And then we'll just go from one to the next. So Daniel, you are the first one I see. And then if you'll just hand it off to Susan, and we'll go on down the line. And then if you guys have a question or a comment for either Kim or Amber, and we'll just start through our group of people up here on the stage. And if anybody else wants to come up, please raise your hand. Daniel, go right ahead.
Hi. I guess this question is for Kim. I'm sure we're all mad about what happened to that tiger at the zoo in Florida, where he had his life ended by someone stupid trying to pet him. But that brought to mind for me what happened with Kimba at the sanctuary and Candy. And I'm assuming that Kim was the one that took care of that. Can you walk us through that, if that's not too sensitive? If it is, I'm sorry.
Well, so Dana, what would you like in terms of walking through? I mean, certainly there's a confidentiality issue, so I have to keep to that.
I mean, without being specific, I mean, like what was it? How do I put this? What was the process in helping people there?
So the process. So my process of helping like the whole overall group was when the incident happened. Just like I know that the one that just happened in Naples, I was reading articles today. Apparently, they're also offering grief counseling and so on and so forth for the staff. But I offer out, for the staff and volunteers, obviously, to reach out, and they did, to talk about anything, just to be open. I offered multiple different venues of ways of doing that. They did individual, they could do group with me. Most people opt to talk to me privately, because people want to be able to share their own emotional stuff and not have to burden other people with it, because everyone obviously also takes care of each other at the sanctuary. And just basically working through, it's very different now because a year has passed, but, in the beginning, it was much more about the incident itself and the trauma itself. And then moving forward, it was more about, self-care and understanding how to not be afraid or not fear something else happening, or, just kind of the things that you would think of that would be normal to come up for, a traumatic event that you either vicariously have heard about or seen in a place you work or have been right there on the spot. But by and large, most the interventions are really offering a couple suggestions of, depending on what people are talking about, how to have self-care. So, making sure that you take some time off. A couple of people did that. A few people, took, went on a little mini vacation. A couple of people just wrote, some stuff out just to get it out of them because it was hard to talk about it, which is really important. Expressive writing, people like to journal. Also engaging with other coworkers and talking to each other about it, I encourage, and people did that. So I gave enough of a different variety of techniques for people to utilize different ways of going about it that fit them, because everyone manages it differently, and as long as they have a variety of ways to do it, then what fits. In terms of the incident that happened this weekend, yes, very tragic and horrific, or this week, with that tiger and that person that did that. I would imagine that hopefully, from what I've read today, that they're doing grief counseling and they will offer it up. I don't know who it is. So good grief counseling for something like that should be carried on for extended all the time for that, because that's a pretty significant incident. So I would imagine that I'm hoping that they do that for them. Dana, I hope that's covered that. It's hard to talk about the specifics, obviously, and I know you're not asking that, but I sort of danced around that a little because of confidentiality.
Confidentiality call.
Yeah.
And I guess for Amber, I just want to thank you for all you do, because the little cats matter as much as the big cats. Could you talk a little bit more about spay and neuter and released?
Sure. So thank you so much for the compliment, by the way. I think that all animal lives matter, all human lives matter. So that's something that's well received. For me, TNR was something, trap, neuter, return, or trap, neuter, release is what it's known as. It's really the process of helping control the outdoor cat population. So the community cat population, it's really not known how many cats exist in suburban areas and city areas, but it's thought that there are well over the number of people. There are like 2 or 3 cats to every person that's on the planet. So one cat, and this is really what compelled me, I think 7 or 8 years ago, to get involved, is I saw an infographic and it showed a picture of 2 cats at the top of a pyramid, right? And I'm very visual in my learning style. So I see these 2 cats. The next year it shows that those 2 cats have procreated and made essentially 80 or 90 cats. By 3 years, they're almost 400. Well, fast forward into 8 years, those 2 cats have procreated at an exponential rate that they have now created upwards of 1 million small cats. So that was something that was astounding to me. And I know that, shelter reporting and shelter numbers, there's a whole lot of unnecessary euthanization that goes on. Shelter overcrowding is a huge thing. Pet abandonment is a huge issue in our country. And those things wouldn't be an issue if trap neuter return or trap neuter release was something that was embraced by all municipalities.
Thank you very much. And it looks like Suzanne, you're next.
Thank you, Daniel, and thank you, Kim and Amber. I was really happy to learn that you were going to talk about this, because obviously a lot has happened at the sanctuary over the last 2 years. And I was wondering if events like criticism, which came after Tiger King, had a different effect from the grief from loss or seeing abuse. And I think that question is best asked to Kim.
Yes, certainly, Susan. Thank you for the question. Actually, yes, that was at the same time the pandemic hit. It was like that same weekend, and obviously all of the things came out, with the show and everything. It was like almost at the exact same time. I think it was like a day or two apart. And it definitely hit a chord with lots of people, because it was a really stressful time. And I had many conversations about, I call it staying in your lane and not having to worry or take on the burden. Like Amber was saying, take on the burden of other people's thoughts or feelings about what you do or how you do it and who you work for or who you don't, or all those things. And just remember, just like in compassion fatigue stuff, is remember why you're doing what you're doing and what the whole goal of being there is. And that when people have something to say, or if there's, feedback that's negative or whatever, you just stay in your own lane and do you. And just go back to the basics of knowing that that's how you came to doing this work at the sanctuary, because you love the big cats and you love your colleagues, and you get a massive amount of love back in your heart and joy for doing that, and not to let all that stuff, because if it hadn't come out like that, or those things hadn't been out in the world, you'd still be going about your life. It's just that sometimes those negative things get in the way, and you just kind of have to put them aside. And it's hard, but that also goes to talking about it. I had many conversations with people at the sanctuary about that, and how living day to day, and changing, coming in from one side of the gate versus another, and people hanging out at the front, and very stressful. And many people did a really good job of just taking good self-care and stepping away, and not, and relying on each other. There's a really good camaraderie at Big Cat. Staff and volunteers find each other and do good work. And then I know they take a lot of the techniques I give them and do that as well. So we did that at that time for, I would say, the better part of 4 or 5 months of pretty heavy. I did some groups on that with them via Zoom, and I had come down and did some work with some individuals when I was down there a couple times right after that in like April, May, June. So yeah, I hope that answered your question, Susan.
That's an amazing response. This was what I was thinking of. Thank you very much. Second question I have is, I'm not directly involved in Big Cat Rescue or in rescuing like Amber, but I follow the people who do, and people like Deb and Karen and Carol and Amber and all those keepers and all those staff, and even all those administrators are taking on so much. How can we, as like a bystander, help them?
Oh, that's a great question. And Amber, you certainly can jump in here too, from the side that, what do you need? But from the side that I can tell you that certainly I think good feedback good praise to everyone. If you get a chance to offer a kind, loving, empathetic word to anybody that you know is doing the work, like Carol, Deb, Amber, if you follow Big Cat, Brittany, Afton, any of the, the people that are working there, certainly offering out, praise and acknowledgement and encouragement, and even just, if you're following along on, any of the Big Cat social media pieces, people post up all the time, and leaving that, because everyone reads them for the most part that I know about in the staff. So they love that and they feel encouraged by that. So if you are long distance and you aren't there and you're not doing that work all the time, certainly that is a big help because you're remote. So that would be what I would do.
Your hat. For everyone, for all the compliments coming.
Okay.
Thank you very much.
Well, that's good.
I don't know if you want to add something to it. What do you need to keep on going from people around you?
For myself, personally, are you asking?
Amber, I'm asking.
Oh, okay.
Sorry?
Oh, no, I absolutely agree with what Kim said.
As well, Kim, but yeah.
Positive really far away. It does feel isolating at times, and it can feel like brash when you get some negative feedback. So just having people support you, helping network, helping fight your cause, share your cause, and feel compassionate about your cause. So sharing posts, helping network, responding when people are reaching out and asking for assistance. Or if you're at a local level, I think supporting people that do things locally to you, that makes a huge impact to people like me, because they just need all the support, financial, emotional, and in every way, basically. So if you can do something in your community where you can help people like me, that goes a long way.
Thank you. And I think I will hand off to Chad.
Before Chad starts, I just want to make a mention, Susan, to something that you brought up. Anytime that there is a really nice compliment to a keeper or staff member or anything like that, I try to share that, mainly because I'm on social media most of the hours of the day, and I will screenshot that or whatever I need to do and send it to that person, just so that they can see those positive words and positive feedback. So if I see that and I think that they might not, based on where it's coming in at, and they might not see it, I do share that with them. So sometimes I'll share it on Workplace, which is a kind of like Facebook, but for Big Cat Rescue staff and volunteers. And sometimes I'll share it there if it's kind of like for everyone sort of thing, or if it's an individual, I'll send it to them. So I do that, Susan, just so you know. I do try to make sure people see those.
And I kid you not, she sends me something every day. It's really sweet of her.
That's awesome.
I was just going to say, too, sometimes humor, I know they do that, and I watch a lot when they have the lives doing surgeries, and sometimes people get so upset in the audience. They'll say, well, how could they be laughing? Well, you kind of need that laugh, and I know Deb and I, once in a while, just crack up at something. I mean, it kind of breaks it up a little bit, and a little humor can go a long way. So just a good smile or laugh can help a person too. Just bring something up that may make them laugh a little bit.
Deb, can I interject something?
Of course.
I often have people asking what they can do, for Carol or for whoever their favorite keeper is, especially when Tiger King and stuff was going on. And what I've always told them is the biggest thing that you can do is make that call of the wild, and then challenge a friend to make that call of the wild, and then let one of us know that you did it. We'll pass that message on. That is one of the greatest gifts. People want to send a gift, to Carol or one of the staff or whatever. And I always say the biggest thing that you can do for any one of us is make the call of the wild. Call a friend, tell them you made it, ask them to make it, and then let us know you did it. That is the greatest gift any of us can receive. And a second would be helping in the comments. When we read down through the comments on posts and we see somebody educating someone else, that is a thrill that I can't even begin to describe. I can have the hardest day dealing with people who are hard to educate. And then I refresh the page and I go back and I look at it and I just sit there in awe at the answers that Big Cat Rescue followers give trying to educate the public on the cat issues. Those two things are the biggest things that can be done to help any of us. Besides, donations, of course, for the work. But as far as personal things that people can do, it's make that call of the wild, get somebody else to make that call of the wild, and help us educate on public platforms.
Amen, sister.
Chad, you're next.
Chad, be sure to unmute your microphone.
Hey guys, I'm sorry, I was trying to unmute my mic. Hey Deb, Karen, Carol, Team Baskin all the way right here. I just wanted to personally take a moment to thank Kim and Amber. Your job does not go unnoticed. And I would love to thank the staff and volunteers and keepers at Big Cat Rescue for their devoted, ongoing, motivation-driven commitment to the cats. And I just want to let Carol know one thing right now. Carol, I heard you on Cage Fight. If they kill you, you're going to come back after them. I promise you that I will be a voice for Big Cat until I die. And I will promise you that I will be a voice for every single cat on that sanctuary property. And I will not give up until this bill is passed. Carol, I love you. I love your staff. I love your volunteers. Dr. Justin Borstein, thank you for your service. Kim and Amber, thank you for your service. It does not go unnoticed. Thank you so much, and I love you guys from the bottom of my heart. Big Cat Rescue for life, baby.
Thank you,
That's all I got
Chad.
to say.
Love you too.
Key, you're next.
Hi, everybody. Happy New Year. I just want to ask a question of Kim. When did you ever have a situation where someone was so fatigued that it was going downhill, and what do you do for them at that point?
So good question. Thank you so much. And also, Chad, thank you so much for all of the appreciation. It's wonderful to hear that. Key. So it depends on the person. It depends on what's going on. But I always offer up. So if it's something really. If it's something really burdening to them and it's created an experience where they feel just overwhelmed and they can't do the work or they need to take a break, I will give them, obviously a service down in Florida that they can go and seek out, which has happened, or that they can, take some time off and go do X, Y, and Z, and I'll give them things to do, good physical activity, or it depends on how bad they're feeling. I have not had anyone currently, in terms of the sanctuary, have anything to the extent of sometimes in veterinary care that I do, where sometimes veterinarians and staff can become suicidal, unfortunately. But that has not happened at Big Cat. And I would say in part is because there's a lot of good intervention, and we do a lot of good intervention to make sure people are doing healthy things for themselves and taking care of themselves. but in general, when people have had a lot of stress, I give them just really good resources for themselves to go utilize and to give them like a pointed plan, maybe one or two different things for them to put in place.
That's great. I'm glad they have you and Amber to, fall back on, because, as followers, our heart breaks for not just losing the cat, but for what the keepers have to go through. We see how much they love them, how much they care for them. And, so it's important, and I'm glad you're there to back them up. Thank you so much.
You're very welcome, Kate. Lisa, it's your turn.
Hi, good evening. Happy New Year, everybody. If I'm correct, I believe, isn't this the year of the tiger?
It is, yes.
So I think it's the perfect year for us, not just for the tigers, but for all big cats, for all exotic animals. This is the year to get that Public Safety Act passed. It's got to happen this year. So my question is kind of from a different perspective of the compassion fatigue issue. And I've been trying to figure out the whole time I've been listening how to make this succinct, and I'm sorry if I fail, but I feel like I need to give just a tiny bit of background. I spent 20 years in publishing, and when my job was phased out, I ended up in a completely different line of work. I took my abilities as a calligrapher and an artist to become an artist at Trader Joe's. Most people don't know that Trader Joe's, every store has their own artists that hand make all the signs, chalkboards, etc. While I was working there, one day under the truck lift, I heard these teeny tiny mewing sounds, and it was two kittens, which, long story short, my cat had died a few months earlier, and it was time. So I took both of these sisters in, and I wish I would have known you guys were on last week talking about domestic cats, because I would have loved to have bragged about my fluffy babies. But so I took these cats in, and my whole life I have been active with animals. And when I got these two cats at Trader Joe's, I'm single. Obviously a grocery store, I'm not making a lot of money, and found this wonderful place in my hometown nearby named Feral Fixers, where they do TNR, and they are just incredible and have grown by leaps and bounds and helped thousands of cats. And they helped me to be able to, at a very nominal fee, get them spayed and microchipped and everything when the time was right, when they were age appropriate. But at Trader Joe's, I was, as I said, supposed to be an artist. They eventually took me off of art and put me on the floor, which I should not have been. And because of other ADA issues I have, I ended up being severely injured in November of 2019. And long story short, being single and my cats won't go get a part-time job to help me out, I have ended up losing my job. It destroyed my body, my spirit, my income, no health insurance, legal settlement issues. It's been a horrible 2+ years. So all of that goes to say my compassion fatigue kind of issue is I want to help so much, and now I'm going to cry. I don't want to cry. And Deb and I have talked about this privately. I want to help so much, but I physically am not as able as I used to be. I financially am certainly not able anymore. I want to help, and I don't know how. I have given little bits over the past year and a half or so to Big Cat Rescue. You're the only people I've given anything to because I care so deeply about this. But my compassion fatigue problem is I don't know. And yes, I've done the Big Cat Act thing, and I know in Illinois, I know all of my reps, and my Senator Durbin is on board, but because I am physically challenged now and financially challenged, I don't know what I can do that is of any true meaning. And I also feel like I need meaning in my life. And the animals have always been a major source of a passion for me. So how do you deal with an aspect like that versus someone who is actively involved in dealing with trauma? If that any sense.
So Lisa, thank you for sharing your story, and I have so much empathy for that and the feeling that you feel stuck essentially. There are so many different ways you can actually. I mean, it's kind of like when people, they want to be full on in the field and doing the work, and that's where you get your most satisfaction. But when you can't, obviously, like you're saying, because you have multiple different things get in the way, there's so many different ways that you could go about helping. I mean, the fact that you can call for the Big Cat Act, absolutely. The fact that you can give little pieces of your financial life when you can, that's great. But there's a few other ways, and a couple of suggestions I've made to people that do have that come up is you can make sure that you go to a local. We do this here. I have people go to like local shelters and local veterinarians and talk to them about ownership of big cats and exotic animals, so that if you have the ability, like when you visit the vet with your cat or you're talking about it, that you're educating people as you go. Education is probably one of the best things to help anything, along with what was said earlier around, obviously having people make the call for the, call of the wild. But you're making it so that you have, you're giving people knowledge, and that's probably the most important thing that can give you satisfaction in knowing that you don't have to give thousands of dollars necessarily. You don't have to be on site at the sanctuary. You don't have to do that. And I would imagine Amber, and I know Carol certainly can attest to this, is knowledge is power. And the more you can educate people and the more that you can say about, you can help people understand why, when, how. I can't tell you how many people, when they find out, what I do for Big Cat, they immediately have a million questions. And that's probably one of the best things I can do is, aside from the work I do at the sanctuaries, I educate people all the time on that. And I think that you sound very well spoken about knowing, the Big Cat Act probably, and knowing the big cat issue, and even little cats. So you could do the same thing as making sure that, I was, as you were talking, I was looking up Feral Fixers. What a great organization that you're involved with. You can do so much just by getting people knowledgeable about that. And I think that's where you can go with that.
Thank you. That might be a really good idea, is to reach out to places like Feral Fixers, and even calling up my vet, or I don't know who I was talking to yesterday, I think it was, at Big Cat Rescue. They had put up a story, and so I don't know who specifically I was speaking to, but I had mentioned that I share things and put things out there about the Big Cat Act on my Facebook page. And it's so frustrating because I feel like I don't get very many responses back. I am sure that there are some people that privately do so. And there are a couple diehards that are right there with me, but I feel like it's almost like ignored, like, oh, here we go, a crusade, not what I'm into, and it feels like it's falling on deaf ears. So that leads you to wonder, where in the world else can I reach out to make a difference?
Lisa, this is Karen. I was just going to say, I've said many times, Big Cat Rescue saved my life. And the reason I say that is because I feel good. I do it all for free. I do it for myself. I don't do it for anybody else. But you will feel amazingly. And Luana says this to me all the time. When you plant the seed, I mean, even in a sales position, if you're in sales in the big wide world, you only get maybe 2 or 3 per hundreds and hundreds. So just plant the seed. And that's what's going to make you feel good. You don't have to reach the masses, but you just reach a few, and then that spreads. So you don't have to feel like you have to get every single person you talk to. Just put it out there. And that's what made me feel good. That's what gave me an identity, actually. So just wanted to put that in there.
And I'm just going to jump in there, Karen, because I was going to say plant the seed. I mean, perfect thing. You may not know, but every single time you post something up or anytime you talk about it, people may not give you the reaction that you or myself or Karen or Carol might have about, but when they're talking about it or when they see something in the news, like what happened in Naples or when, whatever happened, people remember. It's like networking. You may not get the business kind of thing right when you're talking to someone about it, but they'll remember that you know about that, and they'll remember what you said, and they'll pass it along. Even if you don't know, they will know.
It's like the mustard seed. That's a
yes.
That's a great insight. Yeah. And I was, as horrible as it is what happened to Echo, I kept thinking that as close as this is to the Big Cat Act coming up this year, hopefully his life will not have been in vain, because people are going to remember that. And they're going to say, yeah, this has to stop. So anyway, you guys have given me some wonderful things to think about, and God bless you all. Just Carol and Deb, Karen, Kim, and all of you listening, all of us who care, just bless you and Happy New Year, and let's keep this going. Appreciate you all very much. So, on to Marcy.
Thanks, Lisa. Yes, thanks, Lisa. And yes, just thank you to everyone involved, to Kim and Amber and everyone involved with Big Cat Rescue. I say I also work with compassion fatigue, trying to help it, but also a lot of just what I experience. So I work at the major medical center for the state of New Hampshire, and because we border Vermont, we have a lot of residents from Vermont, Maine, Massachusetts, also coming to our facility. And so I work with volunteers there. June will be 23 years. And by virtue of that position, you work with a lot of retired folks. And after 23 years, I have seen a lot of loss with that. One of our programs is therapy dogs, providing them for the patients and staff. And I have had to use compassion fatigue an awful lot in the last month since volunteers have returned, because everyone wants the therapy dog. But when you have 3 therapy dogs currently serving, they can only see so many people. And so I struggle both with providing them, but also the compassion fatigue that who should I be providing them to? The patients who can't go home and see their pets at the end of the day, or our nursing and medical staff who are dealing with so many stressors over the last year. So and also I have the most amazing chief financial officer. I am a huge empath. He is as well. I've been scolded throughout the years for being such a mush at work. He told me to be proud of it and to own it and, be me. And his quote that his mom taught him essentially was, he says, he was born with a medical condition. His tear ducts are too closely connected to his heart. And just own it. If you get teary at work, it's you and it's special, and own that. Lisa, I would say for you and how you can help, I don't really use Facebook except for Big Cat Rescue and for one other group, which is the band Recycled Percussion. They were on America's Got Talent. They had a residency in Vegas. Their brand is Chaos and Kindness, so you might anticipate that Chaos was sponsored in their honor. But they've had a couple posts recently asking who were the people who meant the most to them the last year, and I honestly posted my Big Cat Rescue family. It's the people I have, quote unquote, met online through the lives with Brittany, the people I interact with on the lives that have taught me so much, and just the ones who actually recognize my name, and Kathy, who now will joke with me and call me Marcy Sunburn, because that's what autocorrect changed is my name to. So I'd say, Lisa, just connecting with the people on the lives and on the Facebook posts means so much, I'm sure, to others other than myself, but certainly it means a lot to me that I have this whole group and extended family through Big Cat Rescue. So I can't remember what I'm saying, but anyways, also, Amber, thank you, and Karen for your little cat rescue, because the boy on my profile photo, as well as my other little girl cat, were both former ferals. So anyways, thank you for all you do.
Marcy, I was going to say to you afterwards, not now, but I'm just down the road from you, just over the border, and so I have 3 therapy cats that I work with in my work with my local my practice, so we can talk. And I also have veterans that use Ironstone Farm in just over the border in Andover, Mass. So
okay, wonderful.
So afterwards we can talk, or you can grab me after.
Unfortunately, my hospital doesn't recognize therapy cats, darn it. But
I understand, but you can have them in your life because they are amazing, just like dogs, and they're wonderful. So anyway.
Oh yeah, I'm a cat person through and through. I was born in the year of the tiger, so I'm the crazy cat lady, literally and figuratively.
There we go.
Yes. Anyways, I will pass it on to Paula.
Hi everyone, Happy New Year. I know we're kind of short on time here, but I've enjoyed this. Kim, I actually had the honor of hearing you speak at Big Cat Rescue, and I briefly had reached out to you. I was hoping to live my dream and be a volunteer at Big Cat Rescue, like a tour guide. I wanted to do tours, be more on the partner side of things, and I'd just come in January, the year of COVID, and I heard you speak, and several days later, COVID hit and the sanctuary closed, and I headed back up north, and I actually briefly reached out to you when I got back up north, because I was experiencing, quite a bit from having kind of the dream dashed in the way that it was dashed. But it was nice to hear you tonight. Amber, I would like to know what your Facebook page is. I don't see anything posted here or website, so that I could follow you. If you could maybe share that with us. And
Paula, I will go ahead and update that after the call. I'm so sorry because I was in the Clubhouse, but I will do that, and I appreciate the support so much.
Okay. Yeah, it was great to hear you. I love what you do. I think of actually Chris Poole here, who is busy trapping and trapping and returning and everything the same that you do. And I just admire so much what you do. I don't know that if I could do it, actually. So I enjoyed hearing you too. So Happy New Year again, everyone.
Thank you so much.
And I guess I'm passing it on to Edith.
Happy New Year, everyone. I have such a deep love and respect for anybody that can be in this business, because I know that it's something that I could never do. I knew from the time I was very young that I could, as much as I loved animals, I couldn't really work with them because it would devastate me each time to lose. So I went into nursing, and that has its own compassion fatigue. One of my most painful memories was having to prepare a full-term baby boy for the morgue. He had strangled in utero. And when COVID hit, I will never forget the visions of the refrigerator trucks in our parking lot, knowing what was inside of them, the pain in the nurses' faces as we lost patient after patient. So Big Cat Rescue became a very healing place for me. And even though that had its own pain with losing animals, it was such a stress reliever for me because there's so much love there. And this year I wrote some fictional stories that I sent to Carol that was also very, very healing for me. And it just was an expression of my love for all the keepers and all the cats. And what frustrates me a lot, and I know Karen mentioned this, was that sometimes during the surgical procedures, there's laughter. And a lot of people get offended by that. But they don't understand that you can't be so attached to what's going on that you have to have some kind of tension. And it's relief. It's no disrespect to the patient. It's no disrespect to the animal. It just, something needs to break sometimes. But just such a deep love and respect for all of you that do this. And thank you for being my healing place. I guess, Barbara, it's off to you.
Oh, well, hi, thanks. Yeah, Happy New Year, everybody. And it's 8 below where I am, so I would love 13 degrees right now. So, and we're going down to about 20 below, so yeah. But what I was kind of going to say is, like, a lot of it's been said. But I know that, like, I would do fostering. And so then, and I a lot of times would foster kittens. And so then they go off and they go to a new home, which is happy, which I know doesn't happen at, like, Big Cats and these other sanctuaries. But I always knew that, okay, now I'm going to get some more. They're gone. Now I can get another one, and I can save that life, and I can help those out. And I think when you're dealing with, you know, if you're in the healthcare and patients are, like COVID, they're passing away, you know, which is horrible. When somebody actually leaves the hospital and walks out to their life, everybody has a party. And I think that's what you have to concentrate on is, okay, these bad things happen, but we have this success, and we're going to party. And like we do that when we adopt the cats out at our shelter. When one goes home, we're all like, yay, they went home, you know. And I think that's what you have to try to concentrate on, is find that positive, that one little light in the darkness. But thank you, everybody, for what you do. I appreciate it so much.
Jaden, did you have a comment or a question? Be sure to unmic yourself, Jaden.
There we go. Okay, sorry about that. Fat fingers. I would actually, I don't even know where to start. Besides thanking everybody who works at Big Cat Rescue, like Carol and Deb and Karen, Kim and Amber. I definitely suffer from, are we talking about it yet? I'm on compassion fatigue. But I think I suffer from it from different perspectives because when I lived in Allentown, I went and took out my trash, and I found a pit bull puppy in the trash in the dumpster. And it was so heartbreaking to see him. He was skin and bones. And it was just so heartbreaking. And I had to call, like, the animal control, and I stayed with him. And, you know, I went back to my apartment, and I got some treats and stuff. And he was, shy and timid and stuff, but, it takes a toll on you. And I've been, saving cats and rescuing them and doing TNR when I can and when I can afford it, and donating to Big Cat when I can. I'm actually a full-time student, and my dream is to come down and work for Big Cat Rescue at some point in my life. I'm 43, but I think anything's possible. But in the meantime, I'd like to help out now where I live. I'm in Pennsylvania, Harrisburg area. I do see some strays running around, but, it's a matter of trying to catch them and stuff like that. I just want to know what else I can do. Like, all my social medias have Big Cat Act on my profile, like Twitter does, my Instagram, my Facebook. Like, that's the only reason why I'm on Facebook is because of Big Cat Rescue. And I know last year, I don't know if Deborah Carroll remembers, but I'm the one who wrote that really long message to you guys, and you read it to the staff. And you guys really did save my life. I don't know if it was last year or the year before. I can't remember. I think it was pre-COVID. But I also don't catch lives when they're live because I have insomnia and stuff, or I'm in class. But I do watch it afterwards. I just watched Summer getting an exam on YouTube before I came over to my friend's house. And it's just, I want to know what's going on with her. I didn't get a chance to, go on Big Cat Rescue on Facebook to see, if there's any updates on her, or what's going on, what they found. I just was watching the video and, putzing around with other stuff. But I am working on a project. It's still in the making, but I would like to interview some people at Big Cat Rescue if possible. It can be anonymous, that's fine. I'm doing like a podcast / content creators type deal, and I want to get the word out to people who aren't in what we do or care about cats. I know plenty of people who have cats, and I have plenty of people who do the I tell them, look, can you make the call to the wild this week? And a lot of them do, some of them don't, but I don't force it down their throat, but I try, I try to get it done. And of course, where I live, my Congress people are total, I don't even want to say the word, but it's mainly a Republican area. And, but I just, if Deb could message me sometime, or I sent you a few messages before I got it. But if you could, I don't know, help me out somehow so I can help you guys out.
Yeah, Jaden, and you can message me and we can talk about what it is you need me to help you with.
Okay, sure, great. And last thing is just Happy New Year, and keep on trucking, I guess. And tell Jinx I love her when you get a chance, Carol. If you don't.
Hey, Dad, it's Daniel. I think we accidentally skipped someone. Either it's KT or Kate.
Yes, hi. I was wondering about that. Well, first of all, Happy New Year, everyone. And I used to volunteer for a rescue, but I wasn't on the trap and neuter and return side of things. I helped out by cleaning the kitty room in a PetSmart location for this particular rescue, who would display adoptable cats in the kitty room. And it was just a very, very tiny little part of the rescue. But I did that for about 7 years, and then for no apparent reason, they kicked me out. I have no idea why. I didn't do anything wrong. I think it was it's a weird political thing or some sort of snobbishness between Charlotte, North Carolina, and the outlying rural areas where I live. I can't explain anything better than that. But anyway, I did enjoy that time there, and I did feel like I was helping, and it was always so rewarding when a cat got adopted. Now, I can only imagine the stress and also the rewarding feeling of doing rescue all the time. That must be just tremendously challenging. I once rescued a cat I found at a gas station, and just that one cat, but I was able to find the owner, and the cat had gotten out of an apartment near the gas station, which was across town from where I lived. So I didn't know at first what to do, so I took the cat home with me. The cat was miserable in my house because I have other cats, of course, and then I was able, through an online lost and found site group, Facebook group, to find the owner, long story short. And then I had to get the cat into a carrier, because I didn't have a carrier with me when I first found the cat, so the cat rode home in my car on my lap. And the cat was fine at first, but when it was time to put the cat in a carrier and take her back across town, she kept running from me from room to room, and I finally cornered her behind the sofa and had to wrap her in a quilt, a blanket or so, and just sort of squeegee her into, or not squeegee, that's not the right word, but put her into the carrier in some way. In the process of all this, I got completely scratched up. I looked like I'd been mauled by a very small tiger. But anyway, all that was, I didn't mind that too much, aside from the pain, because it healed. And her owner was so happy to get her back, and I was so happy to be able to return her to him. But anyway, if I don't really think I'm physically able at this point to do the actual rescuing with a group or anything. I've known people who have done it, and my hat is off to anyone who does rescue and who feels compassion burnout. But anyway, I just also wanted to say how much I enjoy seeing the good nights on the BCR Facebook page every night when they say a certain cat says good night, because to me that means no one passed away that day, and it's so heartwarming from everything that BCR has gone through over the years with the elderly cats passing. And but anyway, that's about all I have to say. So thank you for letting me speak, and I hope everyone has a good New Year.
Thank you. I'm sorry, Deb. I was just going to say, Luana got skipped too, just so that I don't know if she wanted to speak or not. Is she still there?
No, I don't see her anymore.
Okay. I just want to check in with that. Okay, thanks.
Kate, I'm sorry. Apparently I didn't pull to refresh again, and so that's why you got skipped. So I do apologize for that.
It's all right. Thank you.
All right. So in the order I see, Barbara, you already had a chance to speak. Beth and Merritt, welcome to the stage. Did you guys have a question or comment?
Well, yes. As Carol knows, I've spent much of my life researching animal statistics, including feral cat statistics. And I was also one of the very first, in fact, I think the very first in North America to do a controlled study of the efficacy of TNR in reducing feral cat populations. But the reality is that the numbers are nowhere near as scary as we heard earlier. And this is something that's actually been pretty comprehensively studied if you look into the numbers, beginning with Frank Chapman in 1908 and going right up to the DC feral cat count published earlier this year. The reality is that the current U.S. feral cat population is probably between 6 and 8 million top end. That's the lowest that it's been actually since Frank Chapman did his first study. The high water mark was just before TNR was introduced at about 40 million. The U.S. human population is about 330 million. So there's nothing like more cats than humans. In fact, since cats are dependent on human refuse to produce the rats and the mice and so forth that feed feral cats, it could never even come close to matching the human population in any environment. The other aspect of that that's important to note is that the maximum reproductive rate for any mammal that can be sustained is about 30% above the current population when you take mortality and so forth into account. Tracing back that pyramid diagram that was mentioned, which mainly convinces people not to fix their cats, because if just one person doesn't fix their cat, they feel it's going to get completely out of hand. That actually originated as a poster about dogs produced by the Animal Protection Institute in 1968. And when it was redesigned for cats, somebody added a 0 to it for no reason whatever. And then about a decade later, it picked up another 0. But it was produced as a logarithm with a calculator. There was never any biological basis for it at all. But it has scared the hell out of birders for many years and has resulted in a great deal of persecution of cats because they're so afraid of being overwhelmed by cats killing all the birds. So that's the long and short of that. If anybody wishes to read more about it, come to www.animals247.org and read all about it. Look up DC feral cat count, because that's where we have the whole history of the numbers laid out there in one easily accessed article. Thank you.
It's encouraging to know that we're gaining on it.
Not only gaining on it, very nearly eradicating the problem. There's pockets of the country that have, of course, more cats than others because they have more favorable weather. But it's also not to be overlooked that there is a big difference between a feral cat who's out there making a living by itself and a free-roaming pet cat. And this is one thing that the DC feral cat count confirmed, that most of the cats out there are actually owned pets that people just let go and let run around. They were able to track this because they set up a couple of hundred wild cams around the city to monitor the comings and goings of the cats and who they were and so on and so forth. By far the biggest study of that kind ever done.
Well, thank you all for this tonight. I really appreciate you all being here. I think it's been a good conversation, and if you have any questions or anything, you can get a hold of me, and I will be happy to put you in touch with someone else that can help you if you have questions about compassion fatigue. You can find my information. If you click on my little pink flower there, you can find all my information there when you click on that. Karen, were you to confirm anyone for next week yet?
I am still waiting to hear from Brian Hackett, and Jet hasn't gotten back to me, Jet Ka from ADI. She did mention 2 other people that may be interested, or she thinks that I should contact. I'm going to give it a try. It's hard to get through to anybody right now with the holiday, I guess, but I'm working over here. Don't you worry.
Deb, it's Lisa. I just have to say real quick, if you ever change that pink flower, we're never gonna know how to find you.
I've been tempted to just to see what happens, but no, I probably will never change that.
Well, I would like to thank Dr. Kim Lannon and Amber for coming tonight and being so generous with your time. So would everybody open up your microphone and show them some love?
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, everybody. Happy New Year.
Thank you.
Happy New Year, guys.
Happy New Year.
And I hope you guys can join us next week. I'm not sure who our guest is going to be yet. Like Karen said, with the holiday, it's been hard to get a hold of people to confirm anything, but I will be sure that it's posted and try to get it out there for everyone so that you know for sure who's going to be here a little bit later this coming week. So thank you guys for joining. Have a wonderful start to your 2022, and we will see you guys next week.
Bye-bye.
Good night.
Bye-bye.
You too, Deb. Take care.
Thank you,
everybody.
Thank you, Kim and Amber.
Thank you.
Thank you.